Okay, friends. So let's recap a little bit what we spoke about yesterday. First, by way of introduction, which we often share, and that is, but to understand the notion that everything that's spoken in Chassidus is relative. And the core reason for that is because it's all expression of the one God. And therefore, oneness pervades every dimension and aspect of his manifestation. And so it's an endless, virtually endless expression of these properties that Hashem has chosen, that Atzmos has chosen to manifest himself via in different levels and nuance and shade and complexity. And the reason for that is because his ultimate desire is to create you and I, which are complex human beings, also, however, reflective of him and his oneness, and so that we will understand and appreciate and have a relationship with him that is nuanced and textured and deep, and a ladder of divinity, as it were, that a Jew can ascend and connect via. And he's able to do that because he possesses all of these things within his own soul and his own world. And that's all part of Dir B'Tachtonim. Dir B'Tachtonim means a dwelling place in Tachten. And the definition of Tachten is complex and multifaceted in many details. And yet it's all threaded. It all becomes the Dira. It's all one thing. It's all you. Like a home. A home has many components and diverse components. But if you probe deeply, we can see it's all the woman, it's all her, it's all an expression of her. She's the true Balabasta. So likewise now, discussion currently. So what are we talking about? Yesterday we gave a little illustration I want to revisit again. He's talking about Chokhmah, or the process of intellect on three levels. So there's classic Chokhmah. And classic Chokhmah is that moment where, this moment of discovery where a person, he goes on to say, sees an idea and is illuminated by it and discovers it. Then there's Bina, which is the analysis. So it's very clear that Chokhmah is the subjective experience of a discovery of an idea. And Bina is the subjective analysis. Subjective analysis, they're two separate worlds. Chokhmah does not morph into Bina, it remains forever a transcendent experience, and it's necessary, critical to remember it in order that the Bina process does not develop, or let's frame that positively, that it develops faithfully to the original vision, to the original Chokhmah. But then there's the Etzem level. And the Etzem level is not revealed at all, not conscious at all. It's the essence of it all, but not in a conscious fashion. And it is not nimshech at all, even in Chokhmah Hagluya, in the manifested Chokhmah. Not nimshech in the sense that it's not consciously expressed. So, to understand that a little bit, as we spoke yesterday, and again, it's all relative. The models I'm giving now, the model I'm giving is broad and relative, and there's further distinctions to be made. But let me say this, friends. Be'etzem, everything, the whole template of Elikus is the Eibishter's decision by how to manifest. Atzmos is beyond. There's nothing to say about Atzmos. There's no gather at all. Infinite also falls as short as finite does, equally. But Atzmos has chosen to manifest, and he's chosen, basically, it's really a binary principle. And all of life is therefore binary, yes or no, on or off, manifest or contain. It's bligvul and gvul. It all comes down to, at the core, oyer and keli, different words for this because they're different levels. Bligvul and gvul. And this constant tension or interplay and virtually endless manifestations and descriptions and properties and qualities. But at the core of it all is bligvul and gvul in terms of manifestation. And then there's the etzem, atzmos, that is the source of all of that. That's in the broadest terms of this. So there's the danger, if we always go back constantly, first of all, not a danger. On the one hand, one should kind of have this understanding as a background to everything one learns, but you don't want to oversimplify everything and just reduce it to these, although this is not simple, this is very deep. But the point of whatever the Maim is instructing is, and revealing is, how all of this is threaded and expressed in the profound nuance of life, of our history, of every mitzvah, of our own persona, etc. But yes, it does come back to very simple truths. Atzmos, Giloy and Helem, Bli Gvul and Gvul, Eir and Keli, Eir and Sof, Tzimtzum. So another way, another manifestation of that is, as we've spoken in the past, we started talking about yesterday, that everything, therefore, has three dimensions. And again, this is all relative because it's further, many more nuances and distinctions within this, but all comes down to this, namely, Etzem, Klal, Uprat, which by the way corresponds to also Atzmos, Havayin Elikim, Havayin Elikim, Chesed, Gvura, and then Atzmos. Again, Chesed, Gvura is the same thing. Chesed is a relative manifestation of Bli Gvul and Gvura of Gvul. And Tiferes, a fusion, and so it continues. So all things is Etzem Klal Uprat. All things, everything. There's the essence of what it is. Then there's the overarching identity. And then there are the manifested details. We spoke about this at length, friends. We learned in Yonesh Teres Chassidus, the essence of Chassidus. You recall we gave an example of an apple. But yesterday we gave an example of the human being, which is perhaps more illustrated. But the apple, anything. There's the essence, it's an apple. Then there's the type of apple. It's a green apple, whatever, red delicious, whatever apple. And then there's the details of the apple. Its color, weight, size, endless details, taste, etc. Now all things have this. Likewise, the human being. And there's many ways we could define this, but in general terms, every human being is a human being. Finished. That's it. A human being. And then there's the klal, what type of human being. And then there's the pratim, the individual components, intellect and seichel and his interactions and etc. The details. So etzem biltim yizgala, which is a principle in Chassidus, is that essence is by definition unrevealable. What that means is that there's no particular revelation that could contain it. So to illustrate this very simply, if there's someone outside your room, and I say there's a human being on the other side, a person outside your door, you know absolutely nothing about that person, other than the etzem is a person. This is all relative. I could say there's a thing, so you know even less. It's all a relative marshal. But in the world of humanity, and then so you know nothing. It's built in misgalit. You know nothing other than there's an existence of the human being. But by telling this human being built in this gala, it's like saying this thing has an atom. I'm holding something that has an atom. You know nothing about it, even though it's true. All it is made up of atoms. And the person outside your door, he's a human being, and that is the essence of every single thing about him. That's the etzem of everything he is. He's a human being. Everything. The minusha, the klal, the prat, it's all human beings have these things. They're integral to being human. And yet, built in this gala, you know nothing of this person. Because the etzem is so mufshet and divested from expression that by definition, built in is gala. It's the essence. If I tell you what kind of person, now there's some kind of giloy. And then if I start giving descriptions, but I'm talking now about the physical makeup or the personality, now you're really getting to know the person. The giloy happens in greater and greater ways. But there's the general giloy, the kind of person. Again, all relative. It's a male, it's a female, young. You talk physically, it's all relative, how we want to illustrate this example. But I think you're getting the point. So what he's saying is this: when it comes to seichel, and it's all relative, so there's the three levels to seichel. The etzem of all seichel is if it's emes. It's true, objectivity. It's objectively true. Now, I just tell you I have an idea that's true. You know nothing about the idea because it's universal. Etzem is a universal thing. All ideas, if they're true, they're true. So you don't know anything about it, and that remains forever removed from the whole intellectual process. If you keep on thinking this is a truth, then you're never going to get down to what truth. So it remains removed, and it's not compatible consciously with the details of the actual idea, as it emerges as a klal, and then later it's pratim. Klal is chachma, and the pratim are bina. As you know, the seed, chachma is described as a seed, the tippa, containing everything. The klal contains all the details that emerge. If I tell you that this apple is this kind of apple, you will extrapolate that it has this color and weight, etc., etc. Or the kind of personality type, so you'll know he behaves this way and that way, reacts like this. You'll be able to a significant degree predict or know the details that follow. Although you should know that everything comes in paradox, that very often, not very often, in the most external detail, which is behavior, which is extremely chitzonius, an animal can also behave and move, you know. So I'm not going to this now, but in the external details, actually the essence resides there in the deepest way, and that's where real change can happen. But that's the paradox we're not dealing with now. The endless paradox, the dafk in the tachten, in the prat sheba prat, therein lies the deepest connection to Etzem. Especially in a detail that seems to be irrelevant. You could remove that detail, that won't change the pratim, and certainly won't change the klal. Yet it's there. Why is it there? Because that's the purest expression of Etzem. When there's no reason for it, it just is. Just like Etzem just is. Anyway, that was a digression. For our purposes here. So the Etzem HaChochma, that's the mind, what he called the mind chosum, that is even deeper than the mayan itself, which is Chochma, which produces the river. Although remains always removed from the river, it produces the river. That's what we're saying now. So likewise, he said in the Tippa Sa'avin, there was another marshal of birth, the Tippa being what? Chochma, and the development of the child, that's mother, that's Bina, as the Tippa develops into this highly differentiated child. But you look at the Tippa, you can't see that. It's all, one. It's makiv, it's klolizdik, it's the klal. But there's a direct relationship between the Tippa and, of course, not direct. The fact is that the child develops from the Tippa. But then there's a third level, and he calls it a koyach ruchni. It's a koyach ruchni mufshit, that is the essence that's not identifiable at all. You don't see it in the Tippa, but it's the essence of the Tippa, and we don't see it in the development of the child either. And that, as I suggested, that's the miracle of birth. That's true of human beings and all living things. To reproduce, virtually yesh ma'ayin. That's a koyach ruchni that is not discernible, but responsible for everything. Everything comes from this koyach ruchni of yesh ma'ayin. All ideas spring from this universal reality called emes, which is ultimately rooted in God. Where does emes come from? God. The Eibishter is the ultimate emes, and everything that comes from him, therefore, bears his stamp. That's Lashon Chazal. It bears the stamp, Chaysamai, Hashem's seal is emes, and therefore it's in everything. If you look deeper enough into everything in life, it's essentially an expression of God's truth, and therefore it is true. And what's seichel? Seichel is grasping that objectively, the truth of what is. So then, okay, I hope that's added some clarity. Then we started Ois Daled, which I said, prematurely. So should we repeat it again or not? It's the Riyah Shmir. I think it's worth it. It's worth repeating again. We'll go through it quickly. So Ois Daled. No, we didn't do Ois Daled. I'm sorry. I did the second. I did the second paragraph, so we haven't even done Isdala. Let's do this now. Understand this with additional explanation. So know that Chachma and Bin are called Riyah, seeing and hearing. But in the Riyah, and you can't compare hearing to seeing. Even if he hears about something and he hears about it in all of its details, and he's creating this image in his mind of that which is being described to him, nonetheless, it's unlike seeing it. Therefore, he hears about something, and he's imagining it, or not imagining it, but he's building it together, becomes formed. The picture of it forms and develops in all of its details as he's listening to the description, or for that matter, reading it. But then he sees it. So intellectually, he's learned nothing by seeing it. Nothing novel has been acquired by seeing that which he had already read about or heard about. Because all the details now accord with and reflect that which he heard. The things that he's seeing now reflect that which he heard. It's a completely different experience. He's moved much deeper by seeing it. Because they're incomparable. And the difference being, when you hear something or read, how does it work? The order is you're hearing one detail, you're starting with the details, and you're building the image or the idea for that matter, if what's being conveyed is an idea. And he speaks now the pshat level of seeing, physical sight. Now, when you hear about something, you hear the details, prat acha prat, another word, and you're building. And then when the person's finished describing, it all comes together, and he's got the big picture. It all comes together. The description of what that person is conveying is now complete. But how does he arrive at the conclusion, the whole picture? It's through the pratim, the details. He does not grasp the essence of the klal. It's a mosaic, it's a composite. What he cannot have because he hasn't seen it, and his whole relationship is by a jigsaw puzzle, putting it together. So what he has is a whole lot of pieces, as it were. And yes, he's faithfully put together the klal, but the transcendent, essential, non-divisive etzem of what this is, he's not privy to if he's hearing about it and building it and putting it together, constructing it. It's a klal built of pieces. It's not the essence of the klal. But when you see it, at the first glance, at that first look, all the details are there, and they're all impressioned upon him. He grasped the whole picture itself. He's not seeing this, I'm seeing that, I'm seeing it, all of it, in all of its expression. And not only is he grasping the klal, but in seeing, and this is because the thing stands before him, so he's also grasping the essence of that, which is higher than the klal and pratim. So the example of a person, you're in a dark room and the light goes on physically and you're seeing the person. So not only are you seeing it's a man, a woman, the kind of person, but you're also seeing here for the first time a human being in front of you. You're connecting to the etzem. All at once. Etzem, klal, and prat, all of it is at this moment of, although not conscious, You haven't thought about the klal. You haven't analyzed the pratim of his features, etc. But it's all there in this essential moment of connection. And that's the reason of the ispailos. That's why he heard about this whole thing. The person described the scene, and he has a faithful benediction of it in his mind. And when he actually goes and visits it, he has not discovered anything novel that he didn't know. Yet he's moved now when he sees it. Even though he knew everything because he heard all about it. But seeing it, he's connected in this non-verbal and beyond language. There's no new language he can say. What we look at him, we see is like struck. No, what did you see that you didn't know? Nothing. And why you moved? Because he's connected to the very truth of it. It's there, telling him, I'm here. Not I've heard about you. When you see it, that which is says, I'm here. Who's talking? The thing is talking. That thing, whatever it is, from its core essence, from where it all springs, says, Ich bin da. And that's a whole different experience of connecting to something where it is speaking to you rather than you discovering it through your hearing about it through the manifested pratim. This, before seeing it, he could not possibly have. And that's the spirals. Okay, we have a story, but which Rajgocha Pratis actually didn't when I found it last night. I realized this is mamash to what we're learning. Okay, so but we'll continue a little bit further now. I'll leave the story to add a further dimension to this. So this we did. So I'll go to this quickly now. But now we'll appreciate more what the Maimon is saying about that. He's asleep, he's dozing, having learned what we did. This will understand thereby that Kedat brings. He used to doze, his lips would move, would whisper. It's interesting why, I don't know why. Why Dafka Pashas Balak or Bilam and no other Pasha? Could be because these Pashas deal with Mashiach, with Yechidah, with the Etzem. Don't know. No Yodea, maybe there's a beer somewhere. But that's what is brought down, always a Balak or Bilam. That's the quote from the Alter Rebbe. So in the time that he dozed, to talk about it and to express it, his Talmidim would need 60 or 80 years. It's very strange. How can a person grasp at the thought level at 1 hour? It would take 60, 80 years. Even though Taka Machshav is higher than Dibur. And that which a person thinks about in a moment. In the Dibur, to articulate it in the words, it takes a lot of detail, a lot of time. But still, this is too disparate here. They're not different worlds, thought and speech. One is condensed and one is expanded. In the Kuda and Pratim, even though the Klal is one thing. And then to describe the apple, the person, there's many, many details. Nonetheless, it's not different worlds, mamish. They're comparable. And the klal spawns naturally the details. And the more the details are expressed, you see this all in the klal. Yeah, this kind of apple has these properties. This kind of personality has personality type A, B, whatever it is, manifests this way and that way. Shakala Yisagodol, and on the contrary, so the details help us appreciate the klal. So there's this symbiotic relationship. The details help us appreciate the klal. But not etzem. But not the etzem. It doesn't help you appreciate the etzem. The more details you learn about the person, you're saying, oh, you're appreciating more human being. No. The details will make you appreciate the kind of person. The kind of person you'll appreciate what that klal is by examining his emotion, his reaction to this situation, that situation, but has contributed nothing to the knowledge that this is a human being. Because even you would have none of those properties and some other personality type, he'd also be a human being. So the pratim don't contribute at all to the etzem. They contribute to the klal, but not to the etzem. The etzem is fartik, and it's beyond klal and beyond prat. The atom. So knowing that a certain gas, liquid, solid behaves in all of these properties, that tells you more about that it's made up of atoms. Everything's made up of atoms. Built in Yizgalets, the atom is not revealed in a particular manifestation. It comes in endless configurations and patterns, virtually. Generally, gases, solid, and liquids. So to say I'm holding an atom in my hand, you don't know, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Clear? But the pratim do contribute to the appreciation of the klal. They don't, and the klal makes us understand the pratim. It works both ways. If you know the type, then you can tie all of his behaviors in. It becomes a unified, you understand the person in totality. It's a holistic. The klal gives you the holistic ability to appreciate this unique person. But the fact is, human being be'etzem, it's universal. Doesn't help you about this person. That's what he's saying now, that the klal helps in the pratim, and the pratim helps in the understanding of the klal.
Rabbi.
Huh?
Yeah, can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
The difference between Riya and Shmiya, what you spoke about before, the Riya seems to have, quote unquote, an unfair advantage over the Shmiya, in that it seems that the Riya does not depend on the person's faculties. Shmiya is completely dependent on the person's IQ, so to speak. If you're smart, whatever it is, you can deduct things, you can make deductions. But the Riya part, it seems that even somebody who's not on the level can have deep understanding of things that even a very intelligent person hasn't achieved. So I'm just trying to understand how that works as far as Torah goes, because like you mentioned with the Arizal, there is a switch that happens at some point, I don't know how, but where you can get to the level of Riya without needing the intellectual capacities. Like is it holiness? What unlocks? What brings a person to Riya and not having to deal, with the.
You're talking about Gashmias? No, you're talking about Ruchnias.
Yeah, I'm talking about Ruchniot.
Okay, so the story kind of will address this. So I'm going to tell the story now. It kind of will address your question. But first, I just want to comment. You're right that Riya makes no demands on the person. But one thing is required. You need to have a functioning eye to be able to see it. That's all. You have to be able to see. You need an eye that sees. And just again, to zero in on that for a second, to add some more clarity, which we talk about all the time. When you see something, what happens? Take the camera or the eye. The easy to see with the camera. There's a mountain over there. You do this, and how did the mountain get over here? How did the image of the mountain get on my film, on the disc? Because light travels from the mountain, and oir is me'ena moir, as long as there's no a distortion, pure light, and it faithfully conveys what is. All you got to do is open, and what's there is impression. There's no interpretation. There's no, if it's a true eye or a true camera, there's no filtering. It's what is seen. Where Shmiya is, you're reaching out and constructing it. So now I'll address your question a little bit further. Yeah, you haven't answered your question yet, but in the story, Vashgocha Prat is today's story.